Have you ever noticed how building a financial plan can feel like um, you're trying to solve a puzzle, like one of those thousand-piece puzzles?
Yeah, definitely.
So many choices to make, so many directions you could go in. It can be pretty overwhelming to know even where to start.
Right.
Well, that's what this deep dive is all about. We're going to explore some smart financial strategies and products based on the materials you sent us.
Okay.
Kind of like, think of it as like your cheat sheet to navigating all things personal finance. Maybe even learn a thing or two along the way.
Sounds good.
So what I found fascinating about the materials you sent is, well, it's this holistic approach to financial planning.
Mm.
And it's all centered around this financial advisor, Jorge Vicente. Have you heard him?
I haven't personally worked with him, but I've definitely heard his name.
Yeah, so he's been in the industry since 1998. That's like, wow, that's a long time.
He's seen a lot of changes in the market, that's for sure.
Definitely. And he started out working with an agency, but then he branched out to become an independent advisor.
That's interesting. It could give him a really well-rounded perspective, seeing both sides of the coin.
Exactly. And here's something else that caught my eye. He works with a whole team of professionals, like a whole team.
Oh, wow.
And they offer advice on all sorts of different products, not just from like one company, but from lots of different companies.
Ah, so it's not about pushing one specific product then.
Exactly. It's more about finding like the best solution for each person's situation.
And that approach, I think, really aligns with the idea of personalized financial planning. It's not one size fits all. Everyone's situation is unique.
Right. Instead of just trying to sell you something, it sounds like they really want to create a comprehensive plan. Like he calls it, it's kind of cool, the 360-degree process.
360-degree process.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I like that. So what does that actually mean?
Well, it's not just about looking at your finances in isolation. It's like they're taking into account your whole life stage, your goals, everything. So whether you're like, saving up for a down payment on a house or planning for retirement, maybe even worried about unexpected events, this process aims to consider all of that.
Ah, so it's really about the big picture, not just a quick fix.
Exactly. It's about strategizing for the long term. And speaking of strategy, let's dive into some of the specifics. Like,
Yeah.
what are some of the products they talk about?
Sure.
Let's start with, the big one, mortgages. Everyone loves getting a good deal, right?
Of course, who doesn't like a competitive rate?
And I noticed that George, he emphasizes that he has access to a network of lenders. So it's not just one lender, it's like a whole bunch.
Oh, wow.
So he can shop around and find the best fit for your situation.
That's a huge advantage compared to, just going directly to one bank or lender.
Right. It's like having a personal mortgage scout.
Exactly.
They're out there
Yep.
doing the research, comparing all the options. Now, there was also something about, I think it was government-backed loans. Do you know much about those?
Yeah, so those are loans that are they're partially insured or guaranteed by the government.
Mm-hmm.
It makes them less risky for the lenders, which often makes them easier to qualify for.
Oh.
And there's different types, of course. Each one's got its own requirements and benefits, like FHA loans. They're popular with first-time homebuyers because you don't need a huge down payment.
Oh, that makes sense.
And then there's VA loans for veterans and their families. Those offer really good terms.
So it's definitely worth checking those out, those government-backed loans.
Absolutely. Especially if you're worried about meeting all the, traditional lending criteria.
Okay, so we've talked about getting a place to live, but what about protecting that investment and yourself from all those, unexpected things that can happen in life?
Yeah, you're talking about insurance.
Insurance. It's not always the most exciting topic, but it is super important.
Absolutely. Crucial for any good financial plan. And what's interesting about these materials is that they don't just talk about, basic life insurance.
Ah.
They highlight a whole bunch of different types.
Like what? Like what kind of insurance?
Well, like term life insurance, that one's pretty straightforward. It's coverage for a set period of time. Could be 10 years, 20 years, something like that.
Okay.
It's generally the most affordable type, and it makes sense if you have temporary needs. Maybe you want to cover your mortgage or make sure your family's okay financially while your kids are young.
Okay, that makes sense.
Then you've got whole life insurance, and that one, as the name suggests, covers you for your whole life.
Okay.
The premiums are usually higher, but there can be some benefits, like you might build up cash value that you can borrow against or sometimes even withdraw.
So there's trade-offs to consider.
Exactly. You have to weigh the cost against the coverage and the benefits. And there's another type, universal life insurance. That one gives you more flexibility.
How so?
You can adjust the premiums and the death benefit over time to fit your needs. But that flexibility it can come with some extra complexity and sometimes higher fees.
It sounds like choosing insurance is more complicated than people might think. It's not just like picking one and you're done.
Yeah, definitely not. And they also mentioned some more specialized insurance like accidental death insurance and funeral insurance.
Hmm.
Those are designed to cover really specific situations, like accidental death insurance would pay out a lump sum if you were to die in an accident. And funeral insurance helps cover, all the final expenses, so it's less of a burden on your family.
So it's really about thinking about what could go wrong and making sure you're covered.
Exactly, creating a financial safety net. Oh, and we can't forget health insurance.
Right, especially if you're self-employed or have a high deductible plan.
Yeah, because those out-of-pocket costs for things like dental, vision, prescriptions, they can really add up.
It's easy to forget about those until you get hit with a big bill. But you know what? Let's shift gears a bit and talk about something a little more exciting.
Okay.
Growing your money,
Investments.
investments. And there are so many options. Where should we even start?
Well, probably the most familiar are RRSPs and TFSAs.
RRSPs, those are registered retirement savings plans. And TFSAs, tax-free savings accounts. I've heard of those,
Right. So with RSPs, you get to contribute pre-tax dollars.
which means,
It means you lower your taxable income now, and you don't pay taxes on that money until you retire.
so that's a pretty good deal.
It can be. And with TFSAs, the money grows tax sheltered.
Yeah.
And when you withdraw it, it's tax-free.
Oh, wow.
So those are really good for things like saving for a down payment or a big trip.
Short-term goals
Exactly. And then there are RESPs. Those are for education savings.
for your kids' education.
Right. And the government even gives you grants to help you save.
How cool.
And then, well, there are RDSPs. Those are registered disability savings plans.
Okay, what are those for?
Those are designed to help provide financial security for people with disabilities.
Okay.
And they come with tax benefits, and the government will actually match some of your contributions.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is a great program. So you can see there are a lot of different options out there. It really depends on what your financial goals are.
So it's all about finding the right tool for the job.
Exactly. And one thing George really emphasizes, it's tax efficiency. He's all about making sure you're not paying more taxes than you have to.
So it's not just picking the right investments, it's managing them in a smart way to keep your taxes down.
Precisely. There are different ways to structure things depending on, whether it's an RRSP or a TFSA, how and when you withdraw the money.
I never realized how much thought goes into all of this.
It can get quite complex, that's for sure.
It's a lot to consider.
It is. But, even with all these different investment options and strategies, it really comes down to the basics.
What do you mean?
Cash flow management.
Okay, budgeting.
Exactly. It might seem kind of basic, but honestly, it's the foundation of everything.
Okay, you've got me curious. Tell me more. Why is cash flow management so important?
Well, it's all about knowing where your money's going, right? Creating
Yeah.
a budget that actually works for you, for your goals, and making sure that you're not spending more than you're bringing in.
It's not just about how much you make, it's what you do with it.
Exactly. And that kind of ties into another concept that George talks about, risk management.
Risk management. Okay, now that sounds a little daunting. What does that even mean in terms of personal finance?
Well, think of it this way. It's about identifying, what are the potential problems? What are the vulnerabilities? And then figuring out how to protect yourself.
So like having an emergency fund in case you lose your job or have a big unexpected expense.
Exactly. That's a perfect example. Or having the right insurance, to protect yourself and your assets.
Okay.
Like disability insurance. So if you get sick or injured and can't work, you still have some income coming in.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or making sure you've got enough liability coverage on your car insurance, your home insurance. Because if you have an accident or someone sues you, you don't want to be, financially ruined.
So it's about thinking ahead and being prepared.
Exactly. And risk management applies to investments too. You have to understand your own risk tolerance, like how much risk are you comfortable with? And then you choose investments that align with that.
So like someone who's getting close to retirement, they're probably going to be more cautious than someone who's, just starting out.
Right. If you're younger, you have more time to recover if something goes wrong. So you might be okay with riskier investments that could potentially grow faster.
Makes sense.
But if you're close to retirement, you probably want to focus on preserving what you've already saved.
Okay, so it's all about finding that balance between risk and reward. And that's probably where a financial advisor can really help, right?
Absolutely. They can assess your risk tolerance, help you create a strategy, make sure everything fits with your overall plan. Okay, now let's talk about two more important areas that are mentioned in the materials:
Okay, what are those?
estate planning and tax planning.
Estate planning. Oh, that's one of those things that a lot of people put off. It's not exactly a fun topic to think about.
I know, but it is super important because you want to make sure that your assets are distributed the way you want them to be.
So it's not just about writing a will.
It can be a lot more than that. You might want to set up trusts to manage assets, designate beneficiaries for your retirement accounts, your insurance policies.
Okay.
You might need to set up powers of attorney so someone can make financial or healthcare decisions for you if you're not able to.
Sounds complicated.
It can be, yeah. But
Huh.
having a plan in place will give you peace of mind. And then there's tax planning.
Ugh, taxes.
I know, no one likes to think about it, but it can make a huge difference in your overall financial situation.
Okay, so what can you do about taxes?
Well, there are strategies to minimize your tax burden. Things like maxing out your RRSP and TFSA contributions, taking advantage of tax credits and deductions, being strategic about when you sell investments.
So it's about being proactive, not just waiting until tax season to see what you owe.
Exactly. And you have to remember that tax laws can change. So you got to stay informed and adjust your strategies accordingly.
It sounds like all this stuff is a lot of work. It's not like you do it once and then you're done.
Right. It's an ongoing process. Things change, your life changes, the market changes.
Which is another reason why it might be a good idea to have a financial advisor.
Absolutely. They can help you keep up with all the changes, make sure your plan is still on track. Now, as I was looking through the materials, something caught my eye. George's website has a whole section about charitable giving strategies.
Oh, interesting. So it sounds like he helps clients incorporate charitable giving into their financial plans,
Seems that way.
which makes sense. A lot of people want to give back to causes they care about.
Absolutely. And there can be tax benefits to charitable giving, so it's something worth discussing with your advisor.
It's nice to see that George considers that side of things, too. It's
Yeah.
not just about making money, it's about using your money to make a difference.
Exactly. It's about aligning your money with your values.
Okay, so we've talked about protecting your assets, managing risks, planning for the future. But what about the present? Like, how do you make those day-to-day financial decisions?
That's a great question. And it brings us to another important point that George emphasizes: financial literacy. He really believes in educating his clients.
So it's not just about telling people what to do, it's about teaching them how to manage their own money.
Right. It's about giving them the knowledge and the tools to make good decisions.
I like that. It's like that saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime.
Exactly. Now, there was something else I noticed on the website that I thought was really interesting.
Oh, what the?
He mentioned something called financial stress reduction techniques.
Oh, wow. So he helps people deal with the emotional side of money.
It seems that way.
Because let's face it, money can be a huge source of stress.
Yeah.
It's not just about the numbers, it's about how those numbers make you feel.
Absolutely. And George seems to recognize that. He understands that financial well-being is connected to, your overall well-being.
It's a more holistic approach, right? It's not
Mhm.
just about maximizing returns, it's about helping people feel good about their finances.
Exactly. And all of this really points to another important aspect of financial planning:
What's that?
the relationship you have with your advisor.
So it's not just about finding someone who's, qualified. It's about finding someone you trust.
Exactly. You need to be able to communicate openly, share your goals and your concerns. You need someone who understands you.
It's like a partnership.
It is, and George really seems to emphasize that. He talks about the importance of regular communication, being there for his clients, providing ongoing support.
So it's not just a one-time thing, it's a long-term relationship.
Right. And as we've been talking about all this, I keep coming back to this idea of personalization. Everything George does seems to be tailored to each individual client.
Yeah, that's definitely a recurring theme.
And that brings us to the idea of comprehensive financial planning.
Okay.
It's not just about addressing one issue at a time. It's about looking at your entire financial picture, all the different pieces.
So it's like putting together a puzzle, but instead of a picture, it's your financial future.
Exactly. And George's 360-degree process seems designed to do just that. Now, something else I saw on his website that I thought was interesting: retirement lifestyle planning.
Oh, so he helps people plan for what they want their retirement to look like, not just financially, but like what they're actually going to do with their time.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, because retirement isn't just about having enough money. It's about living a fulfilling life.
Right. It's about spending time with loved ones, pursuing hobbies, maybe traveling.
Exactly. And George seems to get that. He understands that financial planning is about helping people live their best lives.
It's not just about numbers, it's about dreams.
Exactly. And that brings us to another important concept that comes up a lot in the materials: financial flexibility.
Oh, okay. Tell me more about that.
Well, life is unpredictable.
You never know what's going to happen.
Right. So your financial plan needs to be adaptable.
It can't be set in stone.
Exactly. You need to be able to adjust to changes, maybe unexpected expenses come up or your goals change.
So it's about having a plan that can roll with the punches.
Precisely. Now, as I was going through the website, one more thing caught my eye.
Okay, what's that?
He has a section on generational wealth transfer strategies.
Generational wealth transfer. Wow, that sounds pretty advanced.
It is. It's about passing on your wealth to future generations.
So it's not just about your own financial well-being, it's about creating a legacy for your family.
Exactly. And George seems to have a lot of expertise in that area.
It's inspiring to see that he takes such a long-term view.
It is. It shows that he cares about more than just, the immediate bottom line.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today, from mortgages and insurance to, wow, even generational wealth transfer. It's been a pretty amazing deep dive into the world of personal finance. But before we wrap things up, what are some of the key takeaways you've gleaned from George's approach?
Well, one thing that really stands out to me is this idea of taking a holistic approach. It's not just about managing money. It's about aligning your finances with your values, your goals, your dreams.
It's about creating a financial life that actually reflects who you are.
Exactly. And another key takeaway is, well, the importance of finding a financial advisor you can trust, someone who understands you, who's on your side.
It's about finding that right partnership.
Right. And the third thing I would say is never underestimate the power of financial literacy.
The more you know, the better decisions you can make.
Exactly. And finally, I would say have a plan.
Even if it's a simple plan.
Right. Even a basic budget is better than nothing. Having a plan gives you direction. It helps you stay focused on your goals.
It's about taking control of your financial future. Now, as we've been talking about George's approach, one thing that keeps coming back to me is this emphasis on the human side of finance. He seems to really get that money is more than just numbers.
Yeah, it's about using money as a tool to create the life you want.
Exactly. And there was one last thing I noticed on his website that I thought was really interesting.
What's that?
He mentions values-based financial planning.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not just about making money. It's about making sure that your financial decisions align with what you believe in.
It sounds like it. Like if you're passionate about the environment, you might choose to invest in companies that are, environmentally conscious.
Right. Or if you're concerned about social justice, you might support businesses that are committed to fair labor practices.
It's about making your money work for the things you care about.
Exactly. And it seems like George really encourages his clients to think about that, to use their finances to make a positive impact on the world.
I love that. It's about more than just personal gain. It's about making a difference.
It is. And ultimately, that's what financial planning should be about.
Helping people live a richer, more fulfilling life.
Exactly. It really is. And, I think George's approach, it really reflects that. Like, he's not just focused on the numbers. He's focused on helping people build a financial life that, well, that's meaningful to them.
Absolutely. Now, I did notice something kind of interesting on his website. He offers a complimentary consultation.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. It kind of shows that he's not just trying to, sell you something right away. He's willing to take the time to get to know you, understand your needs.
Exactly. It's almost like a test drive for your finances.
Yeah.
You can, see if his approach is a good fit, ask some questions, all without, any pressure.
Yeah, I like that analogy, and I think that's a really important takeaway from all of this. When it comes to your finances, you have more control than you might think.
It's not about becoming a financial expert overnight. It's about taking that first step.
Exactly. And remember, every journey, no matter how big, it always starts with just one step.
Well said. This deep dive has been, well, it's been a pretty incredible exploration of George's approach to financial planning. We've talked about everything from mortgages to insurance to investments, even how to manage risk, plan for the future, and so much more.
It's been a lot to cover.
It has. But I think it all boils down to this.
Empowering yourself to make informed decisions, creating a plan that's right for you, and building a future that's secure, fulfilling, and full of possibility.
Beautifully said. So, to our listener out there, remember, your financial journey is your own, and you have the power to shape it. Take things one step at a time, don't be afraid to ask for help, and never stop learning. And hey, Who knows? Maybe someday we'll be doing a deep dive on your financial success story.
That's a great goal to strive for.
It is. And on that note of optimism, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Deep Dive. We hope you found it informative, inspiring, and maybe even a little bit, well, life-changing.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep chasing those financial dreams.